Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of Wind Down with Kev. I am excited today. This next podcast is going to be different, and I'll tell you why in a second. But first, let me start with a big thank you. With me, everything in the world starts with an attitude of gratitude. And I must say thank you to all of you that have already clicked the subscribe and the notification button. We could not grow our podcast at the rate we're growing it at without you. So thank you. Thank you also to our sponsors. You're going to see them popping up on the screen behind me. There it is, Canopy Connect. If you're looking to grow your business digitally, if you're looking to make the process of getting data from your clients easier, if you want clients to be able to do business with you a little bit easier, please check out Canopy Connect. Carol Media, my other big sponsor. For all of you that want to improve on social media, look no further than Carol Media. They've helped me make the 2 Comma Club 2 times in a row. I've been viewed and made over 1 million impressions on social media. 2023, 2024, and in 2025, we will far surpass that. Last but definitely not least, my financial partner, Wintrust Financial. Check them out if you're looking for funding to get in the insurance business. Wintrust Financial, that's who I recommend. Okay, today, as we continue our journey of 50 podcasts with 50 agents from 50 different states, today we go into uncharted territory. Not only do we go into a state that we've never been to before, we're going to have a guest that we haven't had before. We have a guest that's not only an independent agent, this guest is also focused on health insurance. So we've been heavy in property and casualty insurance. We've had a life insurance guest. We have not had a health insurance guest, and we have not been to the great state of Idaho. So today we have an awesome agent coming from Idaho. Like me, she's a speaker. Like me, she's an author. She's also the founder of Things Above and Beyond her agency. So she's found her independent health insurance agency. She is also, check this out, she's the founder of the Carry and Defend Gun Club. Can't wait to ask and to hear about that. She's a first generation American. She's awesome. I can't wait to get to know her as you do at the same time as me. So put your warm hands together and give a warm Wind Down with Kev welcome to Malia Rogers. Hey, Malia, how are you?
Hey, Kevin, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for inviting me onto your show.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing your energy, and thank you for introducing us to Idaho and everything that's happening there. So, Malia, I started off with a soft introduction with a few things about you. Why don't you fill in the blanks and tell the people a little bit more about you, about your beautiful family, and anything you want to share about yourself?
Yes, well, I'm a health insurance independent agent, and I'm married, happily married to my amazing and interesting husband, Chris, and I have 2 amazing girls, and we live in the beautiful, picturesque part of North Idaho.
I love it. So you say picturesque part of, and shout out to your husband and to your daughters. Behind you, I see an amazing picture of mountains. Is that a part of the picturesque Idaho that you speak of?
This is actually, I believe, Colorado. However,
Okay.
we are surrounded by lakes and mountains here. In fact, you can walk out of your door and go any direction, and eventually you'll run into a lake.
I love it. That sounds amazing. So Malia, invite me and invite my audience to Idaho and tell me about this ability to run into a lake wherever you are. What is Idaho living like?
Well, so Idaho is, the top part of Idaho is where I'm at. And what I like about the area is that it's surrounded by borders. So if you get bored of Idaho, you can drive 15 minutes over into Washington, or you can drive 2 hours east and go into Montana, or 2 hours north to go up into Canada. So when we first moved to this area, it was quite exciting that we can be in a different country or a different state within just a couple hours.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Malia, if we were meeting in person in Idaho today, what restaurant would we meet at? Where's the one place that, Kevin, you're only in Idaho for a day. We have to eat here. Where would that be?
All right. So I have so many different favorites. I'm going to say Beverly's, because Beverly's is on the seventh floor of this high tower downtown Coeur d'Alene that overlooks the lake, and they have some amazing food and desserts.
I love it. Now, Idaho, in my New York bias mind, I picture it as great fishing country. I picture it as great hunting country. Would they have any meat on the menu that I may not have tried before?
That is a great question. You know what? I think they're pretty adventurous down
Wow.
by Beverly's, but usually I think if you want a really good steak, that's where it's at.
Well, I love it. I am a steak kind of guy. And if it comes from local cattle, probably a little bit better, a little bit fresher than what I can buy on the East Coast here. And I love you painting the picture of the proximity of Idaho to Washington and Canada. So, yes, I have a sense of it. You've cleaned up my geography. I'm not able to pass this on a test. And the lakes, how much do you get to enjoy the lakes? Are you a fisherwoman? Do you get to go out there? Are you putting a rod in the water?
Yeah, I'm actually quite really talented when it comes to fishing. In fact, when I first met my husband, well, first of all, he prayed that he would find a wife that loves fishing. And when we met, I had a fishing license hanging on my rear view mirror just in case someone wanted to invite me to go fishing. And so the nice thing about living up here in this area is that it stays light late into the day, sometimes up till I think 10 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Summer, and so we'll take the boat out and go fishing in the evening and come back like when it's dark.
Well, Malia, that is a heck of a fun fact. I didn't know that. I'm sure my audience is in the dark on all that daylight. What time is the sun coming up in the morning?
Probably 4 or 5.
Oh my God. So, and is that year round? Is that the summer months?
Just the summer months, yeah. So yeah, on the other hand, during winter, it stays dark here for a long period of time. So we just take advantage of the sunlight when we get it.
Well, I love it. So there are parts of the country that are pretty dark a fair amount of time, and that affects people's attitudes and energy. How does it feel to have, I don't know, 16, 17 hours of daylight? Does that put people in a better mood?
Absolutely. Yeah. Studies show that if you're not feeling too great about things or life, then most likely you're lacking that vitamin deficiency. And so some people actually during winter, they'll buy lamps that imitate, the sunlight. But yeah, definitely it makes a big difference.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for inviting all of us into Idaho. Last fishing question. What are you catching up there? What's in the lake? What kind of fish? And what's the biggest fish that you ever caught?
So I would say mostly bass up here, and they're pretty easy to catch. So up here in Idaho, you could, throw your line out, and within a few minutes, you can catch something. Now, my husband and I, we used to live in California, and for some reason, the fish over there are much smarter. So you could fish all day, and because they do catch and release and never get.
Okay.
So one day, my husband and I was fishing, and I caught this gigantic carp. like just really big. I don't have a picture or anything to prove it, but it was so big. My husband was really, really jealous, and he said, "We're gonna stay until I catch something
Wow.
as well." So it was fun times.
I love it. It sounds fun. So let's switch from the water and before we get into the insurance part, read in your bio on your websites. Anyone wants to look, you can look up at www.maliarogers.com or your other website www.metagap.pros.com. So those are your two business websites. We're going to go there. But the thing that jumped out to me, we were first connected, someone first recommended you as a guest on my podcast, was the fact that you're the co founder of a gun club. What's that about? Let's talk about that. I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah. So I would say 15 years ago, my husband and I started teaching concealed carry classes, and back then it was like super popular to conceal carry, you know. And
Mhm.
so my husband taught, but I basically ran the business and do all the advertising and the back end of it. I do all the fingerprinting during class too.
I love it. And are you a good shot?
I'm terrible. No. But my husband's amazing. That's why he's the instructor.
So if you miss, watch out. Your husband is coming. Funny story. Underneath my office, literally the basement, two offices down where I am, there's a conceal and carry club down there. And today is Thursday. I ran into them on Monday. They've been there for 10 years, as long as I've been in my office. And one of the gentlemen, the president of the club, was coming out and he had a bucket full of shells. It was the first time we had a conversation. At some point in the very near future, I'll be in a conversation with him getting my conceal and carry permit. So
Um,
new to me. You would think that all New Yorkers have it as opposed to a friendly place like Idaho, but I don't yet. But looking forward to doing that soon.
that's wonderful.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. So, Malia, also on your website, let's talk about your book. You wrote a book about networking, and you kind of lived it when you tell the story of how you and your husband met. I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in what you're looking for. You put out in the universe, whether it's business or personal. I'm looking to make this kind of connection. When you're focused and intentional, you will attract it. So you've already told the story of your fishing license being in the car, and your husband was looking for a wife that fished, so you live it. But your book, Magnetic Allure, is on the business side of that law of attraction. Talk about the book. What was the talk about the title and talk about your inspiration for writing the book?
Yeah, so thank you for asking about that. So one of the things that I was able to do was build a business completely off of word of mouth. And it started just in, you know, my office was at the foot of my bed. And then it exploded to now we serve thousands of people nationwide. And
Wow.
the reason I was able to grow so quickly is because I built referral partners along the way. And so I retraced my steps and came up with this 5-step process on how to build referral partners. And I had been teaching it to people at workshops, at conferences. And I realized that my formula didn't work for everybody. So I
Okay.
started like, what am I missing? Why didn't it work for everybody? Because it worked for me. And my aha moment was realizing that, hey, you can do all the steps I lay out, but if people don't like you, they're not going to send business your way. And so the key to it is that you need to be magnetic. And so I wrote a book on how to be magnetic so that you can build referral partners, attract people who want to do business with you, people who want to send business your way. It's basically a book on how to be a likable person. And
Oh my God.
yeah, I outlined, you know, like 9 different characteristics on magnetic people. I studied this for over a year, so all of the stuff that I came up with was backed by research and science. And then you always hear this thing that if you keep having people ask you the same question over and over again, and it is a topic that intrigues you, you should write a book. And that's why I wrote that book. And it's called, I have it with me, Magnetic Allure, the blueprint to building referral partners.
I love it. That is, Malia, that is such a necessary book. Um, we all have a product or a service that we offer, but the first rules of business, I say this all the time, people have to first know you, like you, then do business with you. So being likable is a real struggle bus point for people. So without giving away all 9 characteristics, can you give us 1 or 2 hints how to be more likable? What can I do to make people like me?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is learn. This one takes the longest out of all of the 9 traits. How to be an interesting person, or how to be known as an interesting person. And there's a formula for that. And so the first thing is, I noticed now, first of all, I studied interesting people, such as my husband or people on YouTube. And I will tell you this, it was very encouraging to discover that people who are magnetic weren't always magnetic. So all of the traits that I outline in the book are traits that can be developed and grow over time. So the first one is how to be known as an interesting person. And the first thing is, interesting people always geek out on stuff. They don't just dabble in stuff.
Wow.
They dive in. So whether it's, a fascination with bees, or a fascination with insurance, or a fascination with psychology, they just really immerse themselves in it fully. And then the second thing is that they're genuine and authentic. And so
Yes.
that is huge and important, because you have to be true to yourself, right? And being authentic is not just following whatever is mainstream. Um, and when you think about authentic artifacts, it's
Yes.
it's usually um, original and not imitated. So this
Yes.
same follows with humans. We all have unique perspectives, unique experiences that make us who we are, and no one else can be us. And then being genuine. So being genuine is how other people relate to you, and what they see is what they get. Okay. And then the third element is that you are willing to share your knowledge with others, because you could be the most interesting person out there, but if you don't talk about it and you don't share your information and knowledge, then no one will ever know. And so this part is really hard, because a lot of times people will, you know, geek out on stuff, but they'll just keep that information to themselves. So
Wow.
put yourself out there to do videos, to do podcasts, or even work information in when you're having a conversation with someone.
I That's awesome. You have no idea what you just did for me by sharing that. But I will tell you that you sold a book. I know your book is available on Amazon. I'm not going to ask for the hookup. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to have it sent to me, and I will read it, because that helps me personally tremendously, but also people that I talk to and coach in business. So when we were talking about the business and what inspired you, you said you've helped people, thousands of people nationwide. So let me ask you, when it comes to health insurance, are you only licensed to sell in Idaho, or do you sell nationwide?
We're nationwide, and we're in about 40 states at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let's talk about health insurance. Full disclosure, I've had my health insurance license longer than I can remember, health insurance, life insurance, property and casualty, securities license. But the one license that I've never sold one product for, that I've never used, and that my knowledge is as limited as any other John Q. Public person out there is health insurance. So let's talk about health insurance. What are some of the things that people just don't know about health insurance? And why is it important that they work with a professional broker like yourself or your team?
Very great question. And so the reason why a lot of PNC agents don't like to touch health insurance with a 10-foot pole is because it's super convoluted and
Yes.
it's super confusing. And so I would say that if you need to buy your own health insurance, definitely get with a broker because it does not cost anything to work with a broker. And brokers will actually seek out and find the best fit for you, narrow it down, because sometimes there's like dozens of options and you have to narrow it down. Or sometimes there's plans that may look good on paper, but because you don't know what you don't know, they're technically not real insurance, or they'll have an exclusion that you would never guess that they would have until you needed that service. And so if you get with a broker, make sure that it's not a captive, meaning they only sell for one insurance carrier. Then it definitely pays off to work with a broker.
Absolutely. To find something that's customized and is best for the client,
Yes.
not best for the agent. Absolutely, absolutely understand. I get that. And I love that you said it's no cost. And I would rank health insurance up there with many other things that, yes, can you do a little research online, but do you know enough to hit the buy button? My answer to that would be no. So you definitely want to work with a professional. Go ahead. You had a thought.
The other thing too is that if you go through a broker and you have a claims issue, usually the broker, if you're working with a good one, will go to bat for you. And that's super important. I mean, I had a lady that approached me a few weeks ago, and she had a thing against insurance agents. She just thought, man, insurance agents are such slime balls. And doctor's office and she saw my card there and she started researching me and then realized that I wasn't a slime ball. Yay!
Nice.
Out to me. And lo and behold, I assured her, hey, you did a really good job by finding this plan for yourself. So good job there. I reassured her, gave her the peace of mind that she did a good job, even without a broker. Um,
Okay.
she was on a really expensive medication and she didn't know that there was patient assistance out there. So I said, here, you apply for this patient assistance. And now her really expensive prescription, which she was worried about, is covered for free. And so she would not have known to do that if she didn't reach out to someone who specializes in that field.
I love it. And what you just said picks up the essence of Medigap. Just to know in this economy, very diverse around the country in terms of what needs are and what you can get. But the fact that there's patient assistance that can help someone pay their medical bills, that's the difference for their medication. That literally, not to be to exaggerate, but that's the difference between living and dying, right? If you can afford your medicine that it takes to stay still healthy and to stay on this side of the grass, then you're good. But if you have to pick and choose whether I'm going to buy eggs or medicine, that's a bad place to be. So, can you talk more about the type of patient assistance that might be out there that people generally may not know about?
Yeah, so first of all, the prescriptions, that's a huge one because some of these prescriptions are $8,000 a month.
Yeah,
Who can afford that? Not that,
nobody.
right? And then there's also if you are, and a lot of this is tied to income, of course, but patient assistance for prescriptions, I mean, I've seen like limitations for over six figures. Like you can make over six figures and still get a really expensive prescription covered. Also, I have seen where nonprofit hospitals, if you have a big medical bill and you're within the income guidelines, then they'll write off that bill for you, And then also, I run into people who, for whatever reason, they decide that they can't afford insurance and we're outside of open enrollment. If you're outside of open enrollment, you can't just jump on it and enroll middle of the year, right? And so there are sliding fee clinics in most major towns where you can go to that clinic and say, I don't have health insurance, but here's my income, and they will charge you based on your income. It may just be a copay or it could be free.
That is a lot of amazing information. So much wealth in there. I don't know where to begin. You just dropped a ton of jewels that I always try to think of the next question that my audience would ask. So let's start just with the mindset around open enrollments. Generally speaking, nationwide, what are those dates?
So in most states, if you're buying from the exchange, the marketplace, then your open enrollment is going to be from November through January 15th, although there are new regulations and legislation being passed right now to shorten that window. So it would be from November 1st through December 15th. So you have this short 45-day window to make changes or enroll in your plan. And the reason why people ask me all the time, why open enrollment? Why don't they allow people to just enroll year round? And the reason is because if the government allowed people to just enroll year round, then people wouldn't buy insurance and they would just wait till they have, cancer or need surgery
Right,
to enroll. And of course, that doesn't work very well, right?
right.
So that's why.
That makes sense. Okay, you heard the free game here. You heard the jewel dropped. Definitely. Just a lot of knowledge. I mean, really, really early. The thing I like to say about health insurance is this: other than the wealthiest, maybe 1% of the country, 99% of us can't afford to be sick. We can't. We don't have enough saved up to pay for catastrophic illness out of pocket. What has been your experience with that, with catastrophic illnesses, and why it's so important to be aware of what's available with the marketplace, the Affordable Care Plan, and things of that nature?
That's a really good question. And I don't want to use the scare tactic, but I was just looking at statistics earlier this week, and they say 63% of people could not come up with $400 to pay for emergency. They would have to either borrow the money or sell something or not be able to pay it at all. And then the other thing too is I run into people all the time that are super healthy one day, and then the next week they're in a coma or in ICU, or
Right.
they are diagnosed with cancer. And you want to know something? A lot of those people will call me up and they'll say, Malia, you did me right, because I thought I was super healthy and that I wanted to save money. I've gone through some time without having claims. I was going to forego insurance, but you talked me into keeping what I have. And then guess what? When I'm at the doctor's office and I got that cancer diagnosis, Malia, you were the first person that I thought of. And so unfortunately, I hear that all the time.
How rewarding is that feeling, knowing that you did the right thing? You're the hero in that story. The customer is also the hero because they took your advice. They could have taken the money and spent it on something else. How rewarding is that feeling, knowing that you did the right thing and that they accepted your sage advice?
Yeah, and so statistics are pretty scary, but I was looking at according to the American Cancer Society, one in every three men or one in every four females will be diagnosed with some sort of cancer in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And so, what does that mean? That means that if you're a health insurance broker, one in every three men that you talk to, or one in every four people that you talk to, they're going to be diagnosed with cancer. But the problem is, we don't know which one, we don't know who it is. And so, if our heart is to serve people and make sure they're properly covered. It's our job to offer, good insurance, but also cancer policies or accident policies, and then let them make the call.
No, absolutely. Our job is to make the offer. Whether they say yes or no is up to them, but we have to put it in front of people. Malia, we jump right into the business. I didn't ask you your origin story of how you got in the business. On your website, self described first generation American, bilingual, English and Vietnamese. How did you get into the business, and what part of your background makes you the person that you are today, and how you conduct your business?
That was a great question. I love it when people ask me this question. So it is a total God thing, like totally God.
Yes.
First of
Yes.
when I was pregnant with my first child, I prayed. I said, God, will you please, I don't know how you're going to do this, but please give me a job, a legitimate job where I can make money from home. And back then, it was not that popular to work from home. It was just not as common.
Right.
And so I didn't know how he was going to do it. But one day the phone rang and it was my friend that I met from a previous job. I hadn't talked to her in years. And she was in the space too. She was in the Medicare agent. And business was going really well for her. And she said, Malia, I spent the last 8 years building my business, and I have to take care of family. Like, she had some other things she had to tend to, and she said every single time I prayed, what should I do with my business? Your name came up, and
Wow.
yes, yep.
Wow.
She said she called me up, and then she said, if you will help me service my book, then I will teach you about the industry and you could start your own book of business and business. And so that's how that all started.
I love it. It began with prayer. No insurance experience prior, no sales experience, but she prayed and thought you were the right person.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love it. Law of attraction. So I see this pattern here of the law of attraction working in your life, in your marriage, in your business, in your journey, being very intentional, being very prayerful, and inviting things into your life that you want. On your website, you have pictures of your team. You're not just a sole producer, you have other agents that work with you. What would you say to someone that's thinking about getting in the health insurance business, whether it's in Idaho or anywhere nationwide? Is this a good time to join the health insurance industry?
Yeah. So I would say absolutely. There are so many people that need help, and the truth is, even though if it is, there's a lot of agents out there, believe it or not, there are still more demand than ever. And
Mhm.
so there's over 10,000 people that will turn 65 per day that need help with Medicare, right?
Yeah.
And I know this for a fact. I know that the demand is high because people will wait. They will wait like a week or 2 weeks to talk to one of us. Well,
Mhm.
they could just go down the street, right, and find someone else. But no, that's why the power of referrals is very important, because if someone refers someone to you, then they're more likely to go with that person that they're being referred to. They're 4 times more likely.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And that stat, 10,000 people turning 65 every day, is astonishing. I'm a man of a certain age. I'm a few years away from that, right? But I've always felt, and I've shared this with others, I am old enough that I should be getting solicited right now, and I'm not. I'm not receiving phone calls, I'm not receiving emails. Are there enough people in the general marketplace that are in the health insurance profession to service this big blue ocean opportunity?
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that, there's plenty of business out there, and I run into people all the time that just didn't know. They didn't know that they could use a broker. So they're scrambling and trying to do this all on their own and try to figure it out. And it could be a very costly mistake. And so definitely there's always space for more.
I love it. Malia, just the basics, not I don't want you to get me licensed. I don't want to start selling Medicare or Medigap tomorrow, but the basics for the public, not for me as a licensed agent.
Mhm.
Critical things that people need when they're 65. Medicare for hospitalization,
Mhm.
um, Medigap for medication.
Mhm.
What else? What are the parts? What are the parts of the coverages? That's the question I'm asking that are critical for people to have.
So you did pretty good. Part A covers hospitalizations and skilled nursing facilities. Part B is going to cover 80% of your medical bills. Now you have to pay for the remaining 20%. And 20% doesn't sound scary, but there's no cap to that 20%. So
Got
if
it.
you have to pay 20% of chemotherapy or open heart surgery, it can be financially devastating. And so the
Yes.
main is that you want to fill in that gap. So you mentioned Medigap, or an alternative is a Medicare Advantage plan. Okay, if you're doing just straight up original Medicare with the supplement, you're going to need a drug plan. And then also, I find it's very important that you have dental, vision, and hearing.
Yes.
So this is something, a product that I used to think was a waste of money. Okay,
Okay.
but I have found that there are research that indicates that if you have an oral infection, or it could lead to a lot of health issues down the road. If some of that bacteria goes into your bloodstream, it can cause inflammation, and cardiovascular disease, and also increase of certain cancers. And so the thing with seniors is, if they don't have dental insurance, they're most likely going to skip out on dental exams or
Yeah.
dental cleanings. So it's very important to have that. And then also home health care. Home health care is a lot of times skipped over, because if you're recovering from surgery and you need to hire help, insurance doesn't cover hiring someone to come do dishes for you, or help you with your laundry. And so a policy like that is amazingly super inexpensive.
That's amazing. You are dropping jewels and adding value all over the place. Literally, my wife is tends to a lot of these matters for my mother-in-law. So when you talk about dental and vision, those are things people think about when they're working. But as we get older, we know that our vision isn't what it used to be. And then the hearing gets really, really expensive when you're not hearing. And those hearing aids are not the same prices as AirPods. They get really, really expensive,
Right.
really, really quick. So you've touched upon a number of areas where people really need this help. They really need the expertise of a broker. Where should people begin beyond what you do in Idaho? What is the search process for people to find someone that's reputable and skilled in a health insurance broker area?
Yeah, definitely ask around. I would say that's the number one way to find a reputable broker. So, financial advisors usually have vetted an agent that will help, that will do the right thing. PNC agents get asked all the time about health insurance, and usually they don't want to touch it. And so, usually already have someone that's ready to help. So yeah, definitely the power of referrals again.
Well, I love it. So let's go into the referral conversation a little bit more. Um, what would you advise the PNC agent, the financial advisor that hasn't built their network yet? Are there organizations that you recommend that they join, or processes you recommend so they can get out of their comfort zone and begin networking and building a referral community, if you will?
It's all about putting yourself out there, right? But you also have to be strategic about it. So what I highly recommend, and this applies to any business at all, is to narrow down who your ideal target market is. So
Okay.
write down like who it is. Is it going to be boat owners? Is it going to be someone a specific age group? Because if you say, well, everybody's my prospect, then it doesn't, the more narrow down you bring it, the more easier it is to identify who are the professionals that are already solving problems for these people, right? So if it's like a real estate agent, the real estate agents are solving problems for people who just moved to the area and they need to buy a house, or the loan officer who is having to help others with, the purchase, right? So those are the key people that will solve problems for your target audience. And so naturally they will make the best referral sources. And so that's the first step, is identify those people. And when you're out there going to networking events, don't try to sell yourself at that moment.
No.
I think the biggest thing to do is to make an appointment and say, hey, let's meet up for coffee so that we can learn about each other. Because who's going to say no to that? I've never had people say, no, I don't want you to learn about me and I don't want to learn about you. Because the truth is, you can bring just as much to the table as they can, right? So you have the power to send business to that real estate agent, or to the loan officer, or the processor, I would say, right? So they're not going to turn you down if you just say, let's have coffee, I would love to learn more about you. And it serves two purposes. First of all, you're vetting them. You're not going
Yeah.
to send your clients to people who don't know what they're doing. And then second, you're also finding out, what are the key words that will trigger that referral. So you'll teach them what those key words are, and then vice versa, right? So if someone's about to turn 65, then my referral partners know that, oh, that means they may need help with Medicare, and start the referral process over to me.
I love that. Of all the numbers in the world, there's one singular focus. That is the definition of target marketing. Well, Malia, you're on this podcast with me today because we connected digitally. We both belong to a Facebook group for insurance professionals. How much of your business that you're doing locally, how much is because of your digital and virtual appearance, and how much is it boots on the ground where you're in front of people?
Yeah, so surprisingly, the majority of my business is all digital and virtual. And I have so much to thank for. The insurance soup is that Facebook group you were referring to me.
Yes.
And I've met so many referral partners from that group. I would say that my business would not be anywhere near where it is today if it were not for that group and the people in that group. And so the thing is, you have to put yourself out there, because there's thousands of people in that group. But it's kind of like going to a party. If you're going to a party and you are staying in the back corner, not talking to anybody, then no one's going to know who you are. But if you put yourself out there and you reach out, or you show people that, you're helpful, then they're going to want to get to know you. And so I would say that less than 5% of my business is local here. But I've made a lot of friends here in the area who write insurance. And the interesting thing is, even though we're all competitors technically, my competitors here in the local area will send business to me because their clients move, to Montana or move to Oregon, and they know Malia is going to take care of my client, even though if they've moved out of state.
I love it. So both your network is 95% digital, just reversing the math. Your ability to take care of a prospect, even they're a few states away. Your appointments that taking place online on a Google Meet or a Zoom call, I would imagine no one needs to. You don't have to drive a couple of hours to sit at the kitchen table. It can all be done virtually. How long have you been doing business that way? Is this a something post pandemic where people are super comfortable doing a Google Meet or a Zoom or whatever platform you use to conduct meetings?
That's a great question. So from day one, I mean, it was all virtual over the phone or Zoom. People like Zoom as well. And so I was already virtual when the pandemic hit. And I remember a lot of agents were scrambling because they weren't even set up, to do, or they just weren't used to it. It was just something different. But
Yes.
I didn't skip a beat. In fact, business was really crazy during that time because a lot of people unfortunately lost jobs, or they were thinking about leaving their job because they were burnt out. And so it was a time where people needed more than ever virtual help.
So, Millie, so here's a within our industry, many people, and I coach agents around the country to try to get them to be more digital, to be available and do business. Knowing that you're targeting the 65 and older market, some people will have a stigma in their mind saying, well, older people don't want to Zoom. How do you respond to that?
That is a valid point. Surprisingly, a lot of seniors actually Zoom with their family.
Yes.
They're used to it. It's not so uncommon to do business over the phone anymore. And in fact, in North Idaho, it's pretty nice too to be able to do Zoom, because if there's a blizzard outside, we're not asking 65-year-olds or seniors to drive in the blizzard to come meet us. So people actually really like the convenience of it, and we could do everything virtually too. So I could serve someone in Texas just as well as someone locally.
I love it. The applications are digital, the signatures are digital, the payment collection process is digital, and we don't lose time going to appointments that are not kept. Malia, you have been absolutely a fantastic guest. We're going to start to land the plane, but a couple of questions. If someone is listening to this podcast, they're influenced and impressed by you as I am, and they want to join the health insurance business, what would you give them their advice as far as getting started? How does someone get started in the health insurance business and follow your blueprint?
Yeah, so the key is you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And you do have to do a lot of self work on yourself, because it boils down to it. Like, we're in a super competitive industry. You've got to be able to stand out. People have to know, like, and trust you. And so, work on yourself and also put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to jump in. And all it takes is one person to blow up your business. So one referral partner, and that's the thing. You start out with one referral partner, and then pretty soon you have a bunch of referral partners, and then the business rolls in, and you can't even stop referrals from going in, and then you have to hire people. So it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a build wealth over time industry.
I love that. I love that. I don't want to add anything to that. I don't want to take anything away from that. Malia, please plug your book one more time. Let people know the title of your book, show it again, and let them know where they can get it from.
All right, so it's Magnetic Allure, the blueprint to building a network of referral partners. It's available on Amazon for, I think, like $12 or something really cheap. I wanted to price it so that everybody can buy it. I do have a free workbook download that you can go onto maliarogers.com and download a free workbook. So for the price of less than a burger, you can have this book and the workbook. Um, so there you have it.
You mean a burger costs $15 in Idaho too? I didn't know. Malia, you have been absolutely a fantastic guest. Any words of wisdom, any words of encouragement that you'd like to share before we get to our final questions?
Yeah, so in my book, I talk about how to build charisma, and so what I want to share with that is that, remember, all of the traits can it can be developed and learned over time. So if you were not born charismatic, don't worry about it. The more you work on it, the more you'll see that magnetism get stronger. And so you could be a whole new person like 90 days from now. You just have to start today.
I love it. I love it. Malia, you've given us a trip to northern Idaho. You've taken us north to Canada. I think to the left to the west to Washington, to the right. I'm lost in my journey, but you've taken us all over the place with all the work that you do, with all the fun that you're having with your husband and your family. How do you decompress? How do you wind down at the end of the day?
Yeah, so first of all, my husband bought this golf cart we at a yard sale, really cheap, and so we'll go around it town, like, I don't know, 2 mile radius. We'll go get ice cream, or we'll go to a puppy company where we could pet puppies.
Nice.
So a nice little leisurely drive in the golf court or golf cart, and there is a golf course like across the street from where we're at. So just something like mindless. You don't have to think about it. But of course, I highly recommend soaking in baths. So a massage therapist told me, she said, I don't want to put myself out of business, but really want to get rid of muscle pain and tension, then pour a bag of Epsom salts into your bath. And it is, scientifically proven that it helps lower your cortisol levels. So that's my tip of the day.
Amazing tips to decompress and to wind down. So I heard a couple that I'm familiar with. Ice cream, that's a long-term strategy for me that I've got to become less friendly with. Epsom salt is new and definitely just taking some time to rest and relax. So Malia, you have been a fantastic guest, exactly the type of person that we love to have on Wind Down with Kev. You've shared amazing information. Tell the people how they can find you online.
So Facebook is a great place to find me, maliarogers.com, or my Medicare business is medigapPros.com. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Well, this is our first time talking. I have a very strong feeling that it won't be our last. So let me acknowledge my sponsors. Thank everybody for tuning in, and then we will bid you a farewell. That being said, thank you all for tuning in and watching this episode of Wind Down with Kev live, whether you've watched it on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Thank you. Thank you to all of you that have already subscribed, that have already hit the notifications button so you can be notified when content like this is made available on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you. Thank you to my sponsors that you see flashing on the screen behind me, or if you're listening to it, please check out and support Carol Media for all your social media needs and Canopy Connect for all of your data and digital needs to become more digital in the insurance business. Thank you to my financial partner, Wintrust Financial Bank. And last but not least, put your warm Wind Down with Kev hands together. Give a big thank you. Put some nice comments in the chat about our amazing guest today from the great state of Idaho, Malia Rogers. Malia, absolutely amazing. You crushed it. You crushed it.
Thank you, Kevin. That was so fun. Thanks for having me on your show.
Beautiful. Thank you for being here. The live version, I will share it and tag you. It's on my page right now. You can grab it. I just sent you the friend request. You can see it. It'll be at the top. The actual version will come out months from now. I'm on about, I don't know, maybe episode 40 or 50. So the official will be released much later, but people can see it, watch this whole thing, and give their feedback today. And once you get the content, you can use it over and over again and repurpose it, put it everywhere that you like.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. We are good. That's today's work, boss. That was good. That was not an insurance conversation at all. Yep.
I did not expect her to look like that in my house. Did I understand them correctly? Did you say Idaho?
Idaho.
Not the typical person that you would have expected, you know?
You didn't expect her to look at that. You didn't expect her to be the founder of a gun club.
Exactly.
Mess around and find out. That's what they say, right? Oh my God. It's a beautiful country, man. If the news will poison us and make us miss out on some amazing people. Make us label people, miss people, and just not understand what the heck is going on in other places. You know?
Number one, it's very true. And it just goes to show you that Americans don't have a particular look.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, you would think there isn't an ounce of brown anywhere in Idaho.
Right. Or Asian.
No,
you know I mean?
No, not in ounce. Not in ounce. So I just thought that version of the story and the fact she mentions it on her website, like rule of thumb in conversation is don't ask anybody anything they don't volunteer, right? Hey, Brickster, Christine, great job, team. Great job today. You can sign us out of the StreamYard. Enjoy your next few minutes, and I'll talk to you both tomorrow. Yeah, so yeah, man, you just don't know. You just don't know. 15 minutes on the news will paint a different picture than you've ever seen.
Like out in the Midwest, at gas station, and typical, for lack of a better term, lost style,
Okay.
turns over to Asian people. Here's what the video was. Not to fucking go back to the country, blah, 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 blah. And when the Asian guy spoke a lot better English than this quote white guy.
Hold on, we're still recording. Brickster, we're still recording. Let's exit. Says we're still in the show.